All right, everybody. Well, welcome to our workshop here today. My name is Todd Gulluscio. I'm the Director of Athletics, Physical Education, Health, Wellness, and Personnel for the Shelter Island Union Free School District down on the east end of Long Island. Little island right between the two forks, Class D school, but it's home in heaven. So that's what we enjoy. So today we're going to talk about event management for new athletic administrators. There's a great deal of, doing an event years ago is a lot different. Even in my 12 years, I'm 12 years in here. It was a lot different 12 years ago than it is now. The things we worry about, the things we have to prepare for are different than they were way back when. So we'll go through some of the things that I use to prepare for our events here. We'll focus particularly on the indoor as we're all heading into the indoor season. Our basketball, our wrestling, etc. So I break things up into 5 categories when I'm thinking about an event. I'm thinking about teams, I'm thinking about officials, I'm thinking about spectators, I'm thinking about my event staff, and I'm thinking about the facility. Everyone's facility is unique. So no one plan, I couldn't give you a plan that would work for any of you in particular. My plan works for my facility, my building. You would have to tweak a plan for what you have in store for yourself. So I tend to ask myself 3 questions when it comes to any of these categories: what to expect, what to prepare, and what to prevent, the 3 whats. And when I'm coming up with a framework for each event, these are the questions I ask myself. So, some will say, well, we create a plan and it's our plan for the year. That's nice as a general framework, but each event is different. Me playing the rival next door is a lot different than me playing a school that's an hour and a half away. They're going to bring different crowd, a different fan base. Some folks just have different reputations than others. So you have to prepare for all those different things. So in terms of the team, what to expect? Well, do I know that we have a hot rivalry between the 2 teams? Was there an incident at the last game that I need to address or make people aware of? What am I preparing? Well, the team rooms. Where things are placed on the sideline. So, for example, here, we have not used locker rooms since COVID began back in 2020. We just reopened them only for our JV and varsity athletes to get changed for a practice or a game and get back out. We haven't used them for any games. So when teams come here, for example, last year we held basketball without spectators. I had to have separate rooms around the building. I had a room for my home team. I had a room for the away team to be stationed in. I had to find a separate room if we were playing basketball and JV and varsity were back to back, a separate room for the JV team as kind of like a holding pen, a room for the officials to go off into. All of these different things. I had a room for cheerleaders because the cheerleaders weren't allowed in here during the game. So they would come in between. They'd watch the game. I had them live streamed. They'd watch the game on the TV. They would come in during the breaks, do the cheer for the camera and the team, and go back out in a separate room for them. So all those different pieces that are in play. And again, everyone's situation is different. How the sideline is set up. What's their roster size? Am I going to need extra chairs? Do I need a first aid station next to them? Our school here does not have a trainer. So I have an entire first aid station. I have EMS here at my games because that's the best thing I can get. So I have a first aid station with an EMS person at it. Do I need extra water coolers? Do I need trash cans? All of these little things. Mops for the floor for when they fall on the floor and they need to wipe up a little bit of sweat. Do we have the mops? Do we have the towels? All these different things in preparation. And announcements. There's nothing worse than a poor kid getting announced and their name gets butchered. It's the worst. particularly when it's live streamed and then their family's watching, or they're watching themselves. So preparing the announcements. Are we getting all the names right? Asking the coach for the pronunciation of the names, getting them spelled out phonetically. Any kind of game time announcements, sportsmanship announcements, concession announcements, etc. Having all of those scripted ahead of time as we get into that event. What am I trying to prevent? Well, we really don't want intermingling between the teams. Post game, are they coming in and out of the same entrance, depending on your entrances to the gym? Are they coming out of separate entrances at halftime? Who's taking them at halftime, etc. So those are just a few thoughts to ponder when thinking about your teams. Again, those three whats. What do I expect? What do I need to prepare? And what do I need to prevent from happening? And we roll that into with the officials. I like to notify my coach of the officials who are coming. So I will look up either the morning, usually the day ahead of time, and go, hey, look, so-and-so and so-and-so are working your game tonight. Well, we've had that person in the past, and we know they call a certain style, okay? And doing that preparation allows for the coach to game plan properly, so they can react to how that person is on the floor. So we find out who's coming. I know there's some officials who come who may have some sort of issues, whether they be medical, etc. And we want to make sure things are set up for them in a proper way. Again, being sure, making sure you're cognizant of the American with Disabilities Act. If I have an official who's coming who has a disability, making sure I have everything prepared and proper. So what am I preparing? I'm preparing, as any good host, with hospitality. I got a room for them. Hey, do you folks need any water, etc. Making sure things are set up for them so that it's hospitable. They enjoy coming to my facility. Making sure that there's someone from our event staff escorting them to their room in between, not just leaving them off on their own, so that they're not harassed by anybody should someone disagree with a call. And that's what I'm trying to prevent. I'm trying to prevent inappropriate interactions with the officials. And by assigning my event staff in a proper way, that's how I do that. Moving on to spectators. Again, what do I expect? Well, it's going to depend on who's coming. Is this the rival right next door? Is it the small boarding private school an hour and a half away, who tend not to bring as many people? And have my folks stationed accordingly, depending on the crowd size we expect. Is it a game at the end of the season? Is it senior night? All of these different things. We got to expect, not every crowd's going to be the same. When we talk about what to prepare, well, we're going to prepare our emergency action plan based off our expectation of that crowd. I might need additional workers for that rivalry game. I might need additional workers for that senior night. If there's a special event going on, if we're doing a coat drive or a food drive, and we need extra people on hand to kind of man that situation, how am I preparing for that? Because again, each event is different. And then, I have to prepare that spectators in such a way so that they know what to expect when they come to an event. So, mass advertisements. When you come to Shelter Island this winter, you will be temperature checked when you come in the door. You will have to wear a mask the entire time you are here. All of those things, people shouldn't just first know about that when they show up to your event. Those are things you want to get out there publicly through parent emails, district-wide messages, because again, it's a community event. Always treat your event as a community event. as I like to tell our superintendent a lot of times, you're not getting a few hundred people to come watch a math class, but a few hundred people from this town will be here on Friday night. So we want to make sure we look our best for them and prepare them for what they can expect. Uh, if there's going to be some sort of event that you're having there, a coat drive or a food drive, things of that nature. We're getting close to Thanksgiving and the holiday season, and we tend to sock drives, and we tend to do those kinds of things, which are great. But you know, you want to prepare people who are coming for that and make sure they know about it. They don't want, the last thing you want is to have something like that. They come and go, oh, I wish I brought, I wish I knew, I wish I had, whatever. It puts them in an awkward spot too. Again, all about that hospitality when people are coming to your place. And what do we want to prevent? Well, a couple things. We want to prevent, with this particular winter season, having our event being some sort of outbreak of COVID. So we're going to take cautionary steps there, whether it be social distancing, masking, temperature checks, etc. Are we separating the home and away fans so there's no intermingling of fans, whether that be for rivalry reasons or other, just to kind of keep things calmed down a little bit. So those are the kinds of things we're looking to prevent. We're preventing folks from entering over to the team area, right? We don't want them in the team area. We work with our security staff to make sure no one storms a court after the game, et cetera. When we're dealing with student sections, particularly if we have a strong student section, meeting with those ringleaders, I like to call them, ahead of time, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page with what is okay, what is not okay. Just getting all that lined up ahead of time to make that event run as smooth as possible. So our event staff. So now, you know, when we come to our event staff, what to expect with them. Now, everyone's got a different situation when it comes to who can work a game, who can't work a game. A lot of it will be teacher contractual. And do you have to take those people? Do you have to use them in a rotation? It's all going to be spelled out probably by that collective bargaining agreement. I've been lucky here over the years. I've been really able to whittle that down to assigning people to where I need them to be, when I need them to be there, so that at every one of my varsity basketball games, for example, the same staff, the same team is on that event. And occasionally, if we have a bigger event, there'll be add-ons. Okay, we're going to have our regular team plus one or two more because we have something extra going on. And if you can get to that point, it makes it more cohesive. You're not training a new person each time. Okay, at this such and such a time, I need you to get, you know, the official from there to their room, or I need you to escort a team to the bus. I need you to make sure those JV kids, while the varsity game's going on, are not running around the hallways, wandering around the building. All those types of things. So that's all in our preparation when it comes to our event staff. And the soonest you can get things whittled down to where you have a team, the easier and smoother it will be for you in running your events. That I can tell you just from experience over time. When I first started out, I was in a different district, and they rotated. So I might not see the same person except for maybe twice a season at an event. And so every game would be re-explaining the nuances to what we had to do. Whereas now, you know, I meet with my team, I go over all the nuances. I'll show you some of the general expectations I give them that they give back to me, signing off on that they understand. And we go from there. And then we build upon that as the season goes on. I had an incident, and that list, and I'll show it to you, gets built off your experience with what you have. When something new comes up, you add it onto the list. So preparation of your event staff is huge. I highly suggest professional development and training in that area, because the reality is this: if something's going to go awry, it's going to be at an event. We all know this. We work this job. And that couple $100 you spent on getting those folks trained can save you from a big time lawsuit. And that's the reality of the situation. we want to make sure they're best prepared to handle the situations at hand. And that's what we're trying to prevent. We're trying to prevent that lawsuit. We're trying to prevent someone getting hurt. We're trying to prevent all of those different things. And that's all done in our planning. So what I'll do is I'll stop sharing this and I'll go to what I have for my chaperones. And if anyone wants this, you'll have my email at the end. You can email me and I'll certainly send it out to you.
We're gonna put it in the
in the file?
folder. Yeah, it goes into
Oh.
the toolkit folder.
Sure. Okay. So here, it's just, and then this is the general responsibilities, okay, for all of our chaperones. So, be at the game site no later than 30 minutes prior to the scheduled start time. Okay, so everyone should be here, yellow coat on, ready to go within 30 minutes beforehand. No food. This was a big thing. So no food in the gymnasium is a rule we have here. Now, if you want to eat out in the hallway, you want to have a snack, do whatever, you go ahead and do it out there, not a problem. We have classes that sell concessions and whatnot, no problem. Just eat in the hallway before you come back into the gym. And that's really out of our respect. And, folks you need to think about are your custodial staff. The worst thing you could do is at the end of the night, after those poor guys and gals moved all your equipment around, got all your stuff ready, is, have a huge mess for them to worry about at the end of the night. It's really not the right thing by them. But I had chaperones at the table. So we had the whole thing, no food in the gymnasium. And we had, our folks were stopping it at the doors. But then I'd have a guy at the scorer's table sitting there the whole time. It was nuts. So we had to add the second sentence. It's not only your responsibility to enforce it, but abide by it as well. Because we're there to set the example. Again, get first aid items if called upon to do so. Same situation, and you'll build your own list. Again, take this, do what you need to do with it. But you'll build your own list off of things that happen. So here was another example. A same gentleman that was at the table. A coach needed ice real quick for an athlete. Quick thing. We're in the midst of a game, and the coach goes, "Gosh, I need ice. I need it fast." And turned to the person next to them, and the event worker at the table said, "Well, that's not my job. I don't get you ice." Oh, okay. So we need to rearrange our expectations. So we used to have those breakable ice packs and things like that, and with COVID and everything, it was hard to get our hands on stuff. So now we have a rolling cooler that gets rolled down to the cafeteria filled with ice before every contest, and we have the bags and wrap and everything here to do. But if any chaperone's asked to get a first aid item, boom, they know it's their responsibility to go get it. In the event of emergency that requires an ambulance to be called, we maintain the clear pathways. I'm very specific with them. One chaperone goes to the southeast door. That's the signal to the ambulance of where to come in, because they can back right up to our gymnasium. This is all, again, for the indoor sports. They can back right up. So they're not going to go, "Oh, which door do I need to go to?" No, the southeast door, that's the door the ambulance comes in. Make sure you get there. If we have an emergency that requires evacuation, each chaperone takes an entrance and makes sure those folks are going to the nearest exit in an orderly fashion. Cell phone use while on duty, it's one of the worst, right next to just watching the contest and not paying attention to what's going on in the crowd. You'll have the chaperone yellow jacket in the corner, and they're jiving on the phone and talking and blah, 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 and not paying attention to a lick of what's going on. And they're on the clock, they're being paid. So the expectation has to be there that they shouldn't be sitting there texting or playing whatever the latest homescapes or whatever the latest game is nowadays that's going on. And number 7, you're present to work the contest, not watch the contest. You're not there as a fan. We're paying you a decent amount of money anyhow to observe what's going on in the stands with the spectators, scanning, making sure things are going properly there, checking your different points, whether it's escorting officials, escorting a team, checking the hallway, all of those different things. For our scorekeepers, breaking down and setting up the scoreboard equipment. We have a yellow crate, everything goes in there at the end, and then familiarizing yourself with the scorekeeping rules of a particular sport and level you are scorekeeping. So, for the junior high down here, there's no shot clock. But at the high school, there's a shot clock, so you have to know the in-betweens of which level you're scorekeeping and what you're doing, and it's their job to familiarize themselves with that. So that's something that's given to them. Here we go. We got more. Assist the bookkeeper. So we don't have adults on the book. We have our student volunteers that are on the book, but the scorekeeper's job as the adult at the table who's being paid is to assist with the accuracy. The home book is official book. Boom. If there's an equipment issue, they got to let me know immediately so we can get it rectified. If we have a spare console here for our scoreboard, et cetera, and all those things are stored in places where they don't get lost or misplaced, so we can get that out right away. And at the end, they're to assist the crowd control chaperones with keeping the fans away from the team benches and the escorting of teams and officials. So for our crowd, they have to have on their yellow jacket at all time. When I got here to Shelter Island, different than anywhere else I had been, they were actually wearing the team colors for their event staff shirt. So they blended in with everybody else. Everybody was wearing blue. And you couldn't tell an event worker from someone who was just showing up. So we switched over to the bright colors, the highlighter yellow, the banana peel as I call it, and they wear that for the entire game. Maintaining constant supervision over the crowd. So in a single chaperone scenario, most of those are a junior high contest. You would station yourself initially position for our gymnasium in the southwest entrance and then reposition as necessary. You're going to scan those bleachers, every occupied bleacher section, every 30 seconds. Just a check to make sure that you're a check for you and for them. Because I'm going to tell you something, if you have a student section and they know that chaperone is taking a look every 30 seconds, they're less likely to do something they shouldn't be doing. If we have a double chaperone, then we have a southwest and a northwest, and they cover the two bleachers. We have 4 in total, the 2 bleachers closest to them. And then after that, we would have add-ons, and those add-ons would get additional responsibilities. If there's an issue with someone at the crowd, and we give this credit to Safe Sports Zone and Jay Hammis, we ask that they engage the person in a non-confrontational way. So simply by asking, "Can I help you?" And they'll probably pop off about the official or the way the game's going or whatever. You just explain, and for our section 11, those rules govern the contest. And if you violate the rules of our spectator code of conduct and the section 11 spectator code of conduct, it could result in you being asked to leave. And we want everyone to be here and stay. Should a second incident take place after that staff worker has addressed them, then they would engage the person with the administrator on site, which I'm sure in your case and mine is always us. So a second time I will go and readdress, and if need be, we'll ask the person to leave. So it's just a way of de-escalating situation when you get there. And again, if you take, and we'll talk about some of the LTC courses you can take later on that go into a deeper dive of this. We're just doing a surface check today. Those are just some non-confrontational ways of handling that. When possible, check the hallway. No one should be hanging out in there unless they're eating or using the restroom. And elementary age students should be supervised by their parent and guardian in the gymnasium. So here's what happens. At least in my place, parent will come, they'll bring the 5th grader and their best buddy. And then the next thing you know, those kids are running up and down the hallway, doing cartwheels on the tile floors, running all over the place, up the stairs, down the stairs, and the parents just watching the game. And it's enough to drive you crazy. And, for a liability standpoint, that kid could slip, get hurt, whatever, and they're unsupervised. So we make sure that we bring them back to their parent so that they can supervise their child. And we inform the parent, and the parents know this. Again, it's what you put out there at the beginning of the season. I send out an email to all the elementary age parents. Please, if you're coming to a contest, your child must be supervised by you at all times, etc. And when need be, we'll take the child back to the parents and reconnect them. So that's how we handle things there. Halftime and post game, we make sure we escort those officials to their dressing room. We don't want anyone getting confrontational with them. So we make sure we escort them so there's no issues. After a contest, You go onto the floor and you're not watching the teams. Well, they used to do the high fives. They're not doing that right now. Although I did see it at field hockey state championships this weekend. I did see the high five line come back. So you face the crowd and do not permit individuals to, the team bench area. You'll always get the parent that wants to go over with something. And if they have something that the child needs, water, etc., the worker will take it from them and bring it over. And then we escort the visiting team and officials to their bus and or car at the end of the contest. Make sure they get safely in there and off the parking lot and off the campus. We do add in, for my folks, COVID adjustments to what we're doing. So again, they know that spectators have to properly wearing a mask at all times, and they may not approach the team area. So they'll know that, boom, if I see someone with it hanging down, et cetera, and we had this during volleyball, the chaperone goes right over and addresses the individual. And again, it's just like if you were screaming at an official or anything else. These are our safety rules. We want to have fans in attendance. But the reality situation is, if not everyone's doing things properly, we're not able to have you as a spectator at our contest. So we ask that you do the right thing. Again, locker room use was not permitted for teams and isn't permitted for teams during games. Even during half times, I won't put them in the locker rooms because they're small and not as well ventilated. We have classrooms with marker boards and things that they can use and just more open air. So those are things you want to think about as we start to reopen this winter season. And then I always like to put in there other responsibilities as assigned by the athletic director, because you'll always get the ones, particularly if you have, that teacher staff that's just there to collect and working on the FAS instead of being there for the right purposes. Well, that wasn't on your list. So boom, no. Any responsibility assigned that night is what's getting done. And so all of my athletic chaperones get this, that they've received and reviewed it. I send it to them digitally. I use Adobe. There's many other programs you can use. But they sign that and send it back, and I have it in a digital file in case there's an issue down the line. So let's say I have someone as part of a team, and for whatever reason, they've decided they're not going to follow through with the expectations or not do the right thing. Well, then I at least have in writing that I reviewed this with them. They can't pull the I didn't know card, right? I reviewed this with them, and then we take the steps we need to take to move them off of, that duty in those contests, because we can't afford for something to not go the right way, because that's when people get hurt. That's when it's not safe. That's when we have those types of issues. So we need our workers to truly work. So again, as Jim said, I will send this to him, and this will be in the file. Change it, do what you got to do with it, make it your own. And again, this is something I built up over time as things came up. Like I said, I had the thing with the food with the chaperone. I had the ice thing with the chaperone. I never really needed to put that in there until those moments. So it's a living document, so to speak. So we'll stop sharing that. I just want to stop for a second. I know I've talked quite a bit, but does anyone have any questions or anything they want to ask as we're going through here?
I just wanted to say this week, as we get into this season, and I know not everybody can do it or has the capability to do it, but what we learned this past weekend at our home football game, and Dave obviously could speak to this well, in an emergency situation, the importance of the announcer to get the message to the people. And, Dave's done a great job training our guy to get that done the right way. I mean, we evacuated about 1,500 people, I would say, in maybe about 5 minutes based on the storm warnings. But not everybody has that capability inside. And if you can do it, but one of the things that has to be stressed is, especially inside, is where do you go when there's an emergency? What part of the building you're going to go? Are you going to have to evacuate if there's a fire drill, alarm goes off because the wrestling team's steam room sets it off, for some reason. So, but that becomes a real critical piece of how we manage the event, not just for the general safety of the people, but the safety of the players, the coaches, the officials, and everyone else along. But that guy's the last guy, he's the captain of the ship, the announcer, unfortunately. So
that's a great point, Jim. We had a similar, I was working with some of our other athletic directors at the field hockey championships during those same storms. And I got to tell you, I was very impressed with the plan and how it was executed. And probably, yeah, about 5 minutes, we had everyone squared away where they needed to be, with teams in different places safely within the building, et cetera. But that PA announcer is huge to get those people funneled and moving in the right direction, along with your event workers. Point to them. That's why it's a key component that your event workers have a working knowledge of the plan. In case of any type of emergency. Okay, well, if we have a fire drill, this is where people are going. Or, if the fire alarm goes off, you're not going to have a drill during a game, I hope. If we have the fire alarm go off, this is where we're going. If we have a weather event and we're inside and we need to keep people in our building, we're fortunate because we're actually an emergency shelter in all of this in our town. But where are we stationing those people and how are we getting them there in an orderly fashion so no one gets hurt and everyone stays safe? If it's not safe for folks to go back outside, what are we doing with that? So it is imperative that you develop those plans. Again, I highly, highly, highly recommend taking some of the LTC courses we'll talk about, one of which has to do with event announcing. And you got to also be cognizant of the fact that you may not have an event announcer at every game. Yeah, you're probably going to have it for football. Yeah, you're probably going to have it at a varsity basketball game. But are you going to have it at that junior high game? Emergencies still happen, whether it's that game or another game. So, for example, here, I actually do our announcing. We don't do game stuff during game, but we do the starting lineups and national anthem and all that kind of thing. I keep a wireless microphone in my pocket so that if there is something awry, boom, I have it right there and I'm ready to go. And if you don't have a game announcer at a contest, you may want to get a system or a setup like that where you can make the announcement, or whoever is going to be your lead person on site can make the announcement. Because the last thing you want is that kind of chaos where something happens and you have no way of broadcasting in a very loud and clear way to folks where to go and how to get there. So that's something I do here because I have a portable system that I use. I got away from the gym system because A, it was cheaper, and B, it was enabled me to do some different things that I wanted to do. And it worked for my space. So that may be something you want to look at, some sort of wireless mic hookup to whatever system you have. If you need to do something in an event emergency where you don't have that regular event announcer.
The other thing, not to take up the time here, but the other thing is to make sure with the visiting team, if they send their security people, which is advised always to send someone to us in away contest, communication with them on your procedures when they get there and what your expectation of them is. A school could come in and say, we've had that before, where a school say, well, my security is only here to support the team. If that's the case, knowing you have to control their fans as well may cause a problem for you. So if you have that communication prior with the AD, please send someone, because we know it's a rivalry. We know there's going to be an issue. Hopefully you'll be sending someone along with that. But when they say they're only there for the team, you got to be real careful about that. Because again, you don't know their people. You want someone there that knows their people in the event that there is an issue. So.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Jim, because again, we go back to that confrontational piece and escalation. You have a greater chance of de-escalation when that person knows the other person, because in a way, they almost get embarrassed a little bit, anyhow, you hope, of some of the behavior. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I acted that way in front of so-and-so. I've shown parents on film, because we have our game film, and it's always the person who sits under the NFHS camera that's the loudest. It's always that person. So I'll play the tape back. Listen to yourself.
Always.
Listen to the things you're saying. That's not you. And when you're here, we want you to act in that appropriate way. But always good when you know that person. You have a greater chance of that de-escalation. And that's why it's imperative that if you have a big rival coming in, you ask that opposing athletic director to assist in the situation. Send someone who knows your people, who's worked your games before and is familiar with them. And they can assist you in that situation. It may be a case where, my chaperone may see something, but knows that person isn't from here, and ask the other chaperone, hey, do you know so-and-so? Because here's what I saw. And they may be able to assist with that. So just, something to think of. Again, that extra planning for those bigger events that you know are going to take place. Just an extra step. So we'll go back to the PowerPoint. There's not much more. And then again, I always say this with anything I do, my time is your time. We can talk about anything you want to talk about or ask any question you want to ask. Let's go back over here and share that. And so we've talked about the event staff. The facility, in terms of the facility, what to expect? Well, we expected bad weather coming in last weekend, so we had to prepare for that. And maybe in an extra way because, there may be people who are very unfamiliar with your space. It may be a playoff game that on a team you don't ever play at your place, so people may be unfamiliar. So we have to expect and prepare for that. Again, what am I preparing? Making sure that everything is functional, checking the score clock and equipment well in advance before the game starts, because, or even the season, so to speak, because how long is it going to take to get a replacement part if you need it? And what happens if you don't have that backup console like we have here? Those are things you want to expect ahead of time and pre-plan for. Again, seating, bleachers, how are we handling bleachers? Particularly during COVID, if you're doing social distancing, what kind of signage are you using for that? Are you using red tape? But we used red tape on the bleachers for spaces people could sit in a party, etc. Do you have hand sanitizing stations in your entrances to the gymnasium, over on your benches, etc.? Do you have the game balls are all prepared, ready in a rack, ready to go? Do you have someone there to wipe them down if needed? All of those different things. And what are we trying to prevent? We're trying to prevent those issues. We're trying to prevent things getting intermingled to a point where it leads to some sort of issue, whether that's be people, whether that be the equipment, etc. So all those different things we want to take into account. And really, and you would learn this in one of the LTC courses, you want to have a diagram of your facility, specific to your facility. And unfortunately, I don't have mine up here, but and label that out. Where are the home people going to sit? Where are the visiting people going to sit? Photographers and newspaper people. Sometimes that can even be a thing. You'll get someone from either your local paper or a paper or organization from a different team. Where are you stationing them? I had one photographer from a local paper who tried to actually get in the huddle with the team and take pictures from above the huddle like this. It was crazy. No. Where are they stationed? Okay, well, you can come into the facility, of course, take photos, but you can't go past this line or this door or whatever. You can't enter the team area. Get a zoom lens if you need to get that close. Those types of things. But those are things you have to prepare for in terms of getting your facility ready. Again, like we said in the beginning, what's their roster like? Do I need more chairs, less chairs? Those types of things. Because if a team shows up, a basketball team shows up with 8 kids, it's a lot different than if they show up with 15. You don't have to put as many chairs out. You can space things out a little bit nicer, give them a little more space. All those different things. Do we have enough of the good quality balls for each team to have their own rack? Do we need to share a rack? How's that working out? Etc. So those are all things you want to take a look at when getting your facility ready, making sure if there's any kind of temperature controls that those are set properly. We're not jacking up the heat on somebody when they come into the building, etc. You want to make sure that's all squared away with your staff ahead of time. I'll tell my custodial staff that operates, because all of ours is computerized now, our thermostats. Hey, look, game temperatures, we want, a nice comfortable temperature. We're going to have a lot of people in the building. So the temperature would raise, make sure it's a couple degrees cooler so that people don't get overheated. Particularly if you're playing like volleyball in the beginning of their season in the fall, when it's really hot, when you're getting towards the end of summer, beginning of fall. So those are things you want to think about. responsibility you talked about. And here's some of the LTC courses covering this topic. If you can take these, take these. Again, we're talking surface level here today. But if you really want to take a deep dive and prepare yourself appropriately for events and event management, these are the three that I recommend. 625 is the management of game and event announcing. This is for your announcers, but for your knowledge, for your announcers. There's also, I'm a member of it, the National Association of Public Broadcasters. I can send out a link for that. You know, I joined it. I think it's like $50 or something like that. And you can, there's all kinds of things you can, and articles you can look at there when in terms of event announcing. And just talking about that, you know, we'll touch on it for a minute. I'll give you a little preview. Your event announcer should be neutral. When I started out in the district that I did, and I won't name them, but I had two school officials, an administrator and a teacher who were doing the games. And some of the things that were said were not fit for public broadcast. In addition to calling out plays as they were happening, like for football, et cetera, those types of things went on. And that's really what should not be happening. Yes, you can have a little elevation of excitement when your home team scores or something like that, but it shouldn't be over the top craziness and bedlam. It should be an elevated excitement. And other than that, staying neutral throughout the game and being that voice of reason, so to speak, in the stands. So that's just a little taste of what 625 gets into. It's a lot deeper than that, but you'll learn quite a bit about announcing that you probably never even thought of going through that course. And then 630 and 631, which I always kind of find are like intertied, you know, planning preparations for interscholastic contest management. And then 631 really goes into the emergency management side. What are we doing if there's a tornado? What are we doing if there's a hurricane? What about, you know, if there's a shooting, God forbid, gunshots in the stands, et cetera, or nearby. And again, those are fantastic courses. And really, if I was going to jump into, besides my 500s, which I'm sure you're all either have taken or taking, these are where I would go next, because that event management, that is the most public thing we do. Like I said before, you're not having a few hundred people show up to a math class, but they're coming to your gym on a Friday night. That's your public viewing, and you want to be prepared for that as best as possible. And these three courses definitely fit the bill for that. So highly recommend it. If you can take it locally, take it locally. If you can take it, if you're going to the national conference, which I hope all of you are considering, or the state conference coming up in March, which I know registration just opened, please, if those are available to you, make sure you get on that right away. And then here's my contact information, my email, phone number, anything at any time. Again, my time is your time. And we have about 10 minutes left. If people would like, I'm certainly willing to answer any kind of questions that you may have about event management or anything else. Or you can certainly give me a call or an email down the road. But Jim and Denise and Greg, thanks for letting me join in the fun here today. I've certainly enjoyed the time. Seeing everybody.
Thank you, Todd.
Dave, you had something?
Yeah, Todd, I got a question for you. So you have your preseason meeting with your supervisors.
Sure.
Again, a Tuesday night game is different than a Friday night game against your rival. So, you know, how do you communicate with them throughout the season when you have a big game coming up? Do you pull them together for another meeting? Do you send, you know, additional information via email? You know, how do you, because again, having a meeting at preseason can't cover everything that you're going to see over the season.
No. And it won't even cover things that I'm seeing throughout the season. Because again, I'm there assessing every part. I'm not just watching the game myself. I'm working as well. I'm assessing, are we doing a good job monitoring our crowd? You know what? There was an issue over at this concession stand last time. We need to kind of tighten that up a little bit. So I'll adjust with my team as need be. I'll meet with them prior to a game if I feel I need to meet. What I would suggest, Dave, is find your best way of communicating with your group. Some people are good if you just send them an email and boom, I can follow that instruction X, Y, Z. Some people need that little gathering and reminders before the game. It's really about knowing your team and developing your team for your contest. And once you have that squared away, it really makes life a whole lot easier. So not give you an answer, but it really depends on how your team deals with communication. The personal touch I always like better. Myself, I'd rather talk to them in person than hang out an email. Or I'll tell my staff, if I know like the next game is the big game and I'm meeting with them already, hey, listen, next game, so-and-so is going to be joining the team. They're going to handle X, Y, and Z. And I would meet with that person separately to kind of go over their individual responsibilities because they're not on the regular team. But I would forewarn my team ahead of time. Hey, next week, senior night, we have this extra person, and this is what they're going to be covering. And that may either take away or add to what you're doing as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Todd.
Got it.
And I'm glad you brought up the conference. Yeah, the portal is open for conference registration now already. We also have 6 LTIs. Those aren't going to be offered though in this grouping. We're trying to bring some new ones in. Actually, 508 and 510 are going to be offered. And if I remember right, 710A, which is the roundtable, which we've never done. I tried to bring in some ones this year that we haven't done. 618 maybe. I had them in my head, now I've lost them. But we are doing 504 on the 13th and the 14th of December, the first law class. And that's a requirement for the CAA if you don't have it. And I know this is going out obviously to everybody because we're recording this, but that's going to go over 2 nights. Now we're going to be away obviously at the National. So Steve has already set it up where we'll have an instructor to do it a Zoom, while we're away. But it's a great opportunity because think about it, 501, 502, you got it. If you took it and chapter 8 guys had 503 and now you got a shot at 504, all you need is 506, which we did offer and we will offer again probably in January. So you could, if you've got a couple of years as an AD, you could be ready for your CAA by March to take the exam. And, we offer it there at the conference. And if not, we'll do it live where we travel to you, or you can do it online with a tutor for $42. So there's some good opportunities going forward. And we appreciate you coming on today. And I can't thank Todd enough for taking the lead on this. And obviously, Greg and I are going to be at AFERD tomorrow presenting on the Aspiring AD class. So you'll get some information on that. That's going to begin in January. So some of your phys ed teachers may be interested, and hopefully we'll have a pretty good crowd for that. If the city presentation was any indication a few years ago before COVID of what the interest level is, we think we're going to have a pretty good crowd for that one. So I'm looking forward to Greg's presentation up there.
And, I would stress again, if these are courses that you want to take, talk with your local chapter rep. If you can get some people together, I know Jim will put together a course and get an instructor via Zoom or one locally there that may be able to teach it. We're here as a service to you. And obviously you're showing the initiative by being here today. But if those courses are something that you really want to get your hands on, work within your chapter to make that happen. And that, it's not like a faraway thing that can't happen is what I really want to express to you. If you want something bad enough, I'm sure we're going to find a way to make it happen for you. So with that, if there's no other questions, I really want to thank everybody for having me here today and for listening for a little bit. And if there's anything I can do for you down the road, I am more than happy to take a phone call or an email at any time.
Thanks again, Todd. Live long and prosper.
All right,
Thanks,
you got
Todd.
it, everybody. Be well.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Todd.
everybody.
Thank
Nice
you.
seeing you, Shannon.